it's Reija and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to list the worst books I read in 2017, and when I'm talking about worst books it just means that books that I found to be the least entertaining, to have the least reread value for me, and books that had content that I just didn't gel with at all. I have prepared award categories for each of these beautiful winners, but let's face it, there are no winners in this video, only losers.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Award for the book that didn't do anything for me.
And I have two winners for the first category, and they are American Gods by Neil Gaiman and Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Now, with American Gods, I just felt that the pacing of the book was really all over the place. It was very slow to start and very meandering in the middle, and then it just kind of ended. And the climax was very anticlimactic. And I also felt that the relationship between Shadow and Wednesday, which was the main central relationship in the book, was very unrealistic. I honestly did not understand what Shadow saw in Wednesday, because Wednesday was from start to finish a complete asshole. Also, Shadow himself didn't have much of a character. He was just kind of this blank slate that the audience could project themselves into, and I just didn't feel anything towards him as a character. I didn't find him all that sympathetic, I didn't find him relatable, he just was there. And when you have that kind of character and surround him with these larger than life type characters, most of whom are assholes, you kind of feel a little bit lost in a sea of assholery, which was what happened to me. And also this book reads as very anti-technology. All of the new gods that represent media and internet and technology, they sounded like these whiny kids and overtly sexual vixens, so that was something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I would have liked a bit more grey tones in an otherwise black and white story. I actually thought that if Gaiman had decided to do this as a short story collection and focused on all the coming to America bits, this book would have been a lot better in my opinion. And Fangirl, for this same award, I just didn't gel with the characters, I didn't find them sympathetic, I didn't find them relatable. The main character has anxiety, which is something that I also have, so I thought that I could relate to her, but she seemed to be the type that blamed her problems on her anxiety and refused to grow, and that was something that I don't really gel with, especially as someone who has had to struggle with this for so many years. I was like, that's the kind of attitude outsiders have towards people who have anxiety. That is not my experience at all. And maybe it is someone else's, but I personally did not gel with that character. Also, she is a fanfiction writer, but her writing hasn't evolved at all. I don't understand why we needed timestamp for her fanfic excerpts, because there was no differences between them. She started as an awesome writer and just kept on that path. There was no evolution and no growth in her writing, so I thought that the fanfic parts were kind of tacked on and unnecessary, because I didn't learn anything new about her as a person in those. So yeah, those two are the winners for this category.
Deja Vu, award for most repetitive storytelling.
And next up, the winner for this category is Moribund by Genevieve Isolde Eldridge. And oh boy, I got an advanced reader's copy for this from NetGalley, and I reviewed this on my channel. You can watch it over here. But I have never in my life read anything that was so repetitive. The book is trying to be kind of Buffy-esque and has all these pop culture references and all these spunky female characters and these really cool action moments. But it is so repetitive. I had to go back a couple of pages every now and again because I was thinking like, have I read this page before? Like this reads exactly as something that I already read 5 minutes ago. And no, it's just that the author reuses descriptions and reuses phrases so often that they blend together and form this kind of amalgamation of repetitiveness. So yeah, Moribund is on this list for good reason.
I Can't Look Away, award for biggest train wreck.
And if you've seen any of my previous wrap-ups, you've seen me probably complain about this book a lot, so there's no surprise that this is a winner. And it is Temporary People by Deepak Unikrishnan. Now, I have talked about this book quite a lot in various occasions, and I can understand how people who have the cultural background and the knowledge that the author has, I can understand how they might enjoy this book more than I did. But because I don't have the same cultural background, I don't see the same things. So I tend to focus on the things that I do see and I do understand, and that was the blatant homophobia and sexism in this book. This book was probably the most offensive book that I read this year, and I've talked about it at length in my Booktubeathon wrap-up. You can go watch that as well. But yeah, this book is a collection of short stories, and there are some really good ones sprinkled in, but they don't really help this book overcome the fact that most of the short stories are very offensive. They are riddled with sexism and misogyny and, as I said, homophobia, and I really don't gel with that at all. And this was one of my most expected reads this year, and I'm so sad that it didn't live up to my expectations. I was really disappointed in it.
Carry Me to My Grave So You Can Let Me Down One Last Time, award for biggest disappointment.
And the winner for this award is The Tempering of Men by Sarah Monette and Elizabeth Bear. I loved the first part in this trilogy, and I was so excited to pick up the second one, and it bombed. It bombed so bad. It suffers from the second book syndrome so much, and it's just set up for the third installment in the series, and the characters don't get fleshed out almost at all. The romance is kind of like, okay, I guess you are an item now. And there is a point of view character that is nothing but set up for the next volume. He basically doesn't have any reason to have a point of view except as a setup for the next volume. And I just was so disappointed with this. Like, it took me pretty long time, even though this is a short book, it took me a pretty long time to get through this because I was just constantly amazed at how disappointed I was in it. But yeah, unfortunately, after a very good first installment, The Tempering of Men just kind of was a complete letdown and landed itself on the worst books I read this year list.
A Sack Full of Bricks, award for the cringiest romance.
And the winner for this final category is, drumroll please, Caraval by Stephanie Garber. And this book landed itself mostly on this list thanks to the horrendous romance, which has really horrific implications in terms of power dynamics, because Julian is like how many decades older than Scarlet and doesn't really disclose this information, even though he is kind of making the moves on her throughout the book, and even in the end he just kind of brushes it off, like, you know, I was part of this immortal circus troupe, but you know, I'm still a young boy at heart. And I also felt that Scarlet had little to no agency. Every decision she made was at the behest of other characters, and every independent decision that she made, she was always punished or ridiculed for it. So this whole dynamic in this book just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I just wasn't here for it. So yeah, Caraval definitely deserves this award in my opinion. And there you have it. These have been the worst books I read in 2017. What are some of the worst books you read this year? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. And I will see you in another video, which is going to be the best books I read in 2017. I'll see you later. Bye bye!